Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating chapters of European history, the story of the Moors in Spain. Imagine a time when culture, reform, art, literature, and religious ideals flourished under the warm sun of Al-Andalus, a period when the meeting of civilizations sparked a golden age that would change the course of history forever. For centuries, the Moors, a diverse group of Muslims from North Africa of Berber and Arab descent, ruled large parts of the Iberian Peninsula. The Berber people belonged to the Afro-Asiatic family and hailed from such regions as Egypt, Mali, Morocco, Libya, and Mauritania. They were invaded and conquered by the Arabs in the 8th century as Islam made its way to the African coast. Their influence can still be seen and felt across Spain, from the breathtaking palaces and gardens to the very language spoken today. But who were the Moors? How did they come to conquer such a vast territory? And what events led to the eventual fall of their reign and expulsion from Spain? In this video, we'll explore the rise and fall of Moorish Spain, the incredible cultural exchange that shaped the nation, and the enduring legacy of this remarkable period. If you enjoy biblical stories and history of the Bible, please consider subscribing to this channel. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, like, and share with your family and friends. Now back to the video. A series of invasions by the Goths in 367 AD marked the end of Roman rule in Europe and other surrounding territories. The Goths were a barbaric or nomadic tribe of people of Germanic descent that swept through Europe at the start of the medieval period. As far as religion goes, they were said to be Christians. The Romans were no match for these barbarian tribes as the eastern tribes of the Goths, known as the Ostrogoths, overtook the Italian peninsula and settled in Italy and areas around the Black Sea. As for the western tribes of the Goths, they were referred to as the Visigoths. The territories they conquered stretched all the way from Eastern Europe to Spain and Portugal, which was known as the Iberian Peninsula back in those days. When the Visigoths made their way into Spain, the country was in a state of dissolution. The moral framework of society was non-existent. The historian and author of the book, The Moors of Spain, describes the appalling scene. In Spain, the richer classes or nobility were given over to luxury and sensuality. They lived only for the mere pleasures of life, such as eating and drinking, gambling, and all kinds of excitement. The mass of the people were either slaves or, what was much the same, laborers bound to the soil. Between the rich and slaves were the burghers, who were perhaps even worse off, for on their shoulders lay all the burden of supporting the state. They paid the taxes and did all the civil and municipal functions and supplied the money which the rich squandered upon their luxuries. The Story of Moors in Spain by Stanley Lane-poole. So the Visigoths did not step into newfound wealth. In fact, it was quite the opposite. They made their home in Spain and ruled the country for almost 200 years. During those years, the country went into further decline and anarchy. The situation between the rich and the slaves grew ever more desperate, and the ruling king, a man by the name of Yahuah, did nothing to remedy the turbulent situation. When Yahuah passed away in the year 710, his surviving two sons were denied succession to the throne as another Visigoth leader by the name of Rodri usurped the throne for himself. Rodri may have had good intentions in the beginning. He may have wanted to fix the current state of affairs of the country, but just like his predecessors, he succumbed to the luxury and corruption that plagued medieval Spain for quite some time. Then trouble came knocking at his door in the form of betrayal and revenge, which opened the doors for the invasion of the Muslim Moors. So what was a turn of events that changed not only the political landscape but religious climate in Spain and changed the course of history in Europe? As the story goes, the governor of Ceuta was a little port city that bordered the North African country of Morocco and the Mediterranean Sea. Ceuta previously belonged to the Greeks, but because of its close proximity to Spain, it sort of leaned on the country for its survival. The then governor of Ceuta was a man by the name of Julian. Julian was related to the previous Visigoth king Yahuah by marriage, as he married one of Yahuah's daughters, and through that marriage, a daughter was born unto him. When his daughter Florinda became of age, she was sent to the Spanish court in Toledo to be trained and educated in proper etiquette that was customary for people of high society. Florinda was described as fair to the eyes and very beautiful, which no doubt caught the attention of King Rodri, and he gave in to his twisted desires and dishonored the reputation of the young girl. Florinda wrote a letter to her father explaining the shame she had suffered at the hands of King Rodri, and as you can guess, her father Julian was enraged and vowed revenge. Julian immediately paid a visit to Roderick at his court and informed him that the Serecens, or the Arabs, were threatening to invade the country, and in order to defend the kingdom, he would need access to horses and lots of arms. Now it must be said that Roderick believed Julian's account, whether it was out of guilt or genuine concern for the country. The next set of events is sure to have dire consequences, but this was all part of Julian's plan of revenge, for he was not prepared to fight for or defend Spain against the invaders. After receiving the horses and the arms sent by King Roderick, Julian visited the Aram governor of North Africa, a man by the name of Musa. Musa and Julian were actually enemies, as Musa and his men had previously sought to conquer the Iberian Peninsula, but was fought off by Julian and his men, so this was sort of a strange meeting. Julian informed Musa about the wealth and splendor of Spain, describing in much detail the landscape and everything else that would prove that Spain was ripe for the taking. To seal the deal, Julian requested a truce of friendship and urged the governor that Spain can be overthrown with his help. But Musa was not ready to jump on his horse and invade Spain. As a matter of fact, he was a bit skeptical of Julian's plan. Remember, they were previously enemies. However treacherous the plan may seem, Musa did not want to pass up this opportunity for success, so he inquired of the Caliph in Damascus as to what he should do in this situation. The Caliph was the supreme religious and political authority of the Muslim communities around the world. While awaiting for an answer from his leader, Musa went ahead and sent a small garrison of 500 troops of mostly Moors with the ships that were given to him by Julian. And in 710, under the general Tarif, the Moors reached the coast of Andalusia. They proceeded inland and raided the town of Algeciras. After this successful venture, Tarif returned to Africa and informed Musa of all the things they had done and seen, corroborating the words of Julian. Just about that time, Musa received word from the Caliph of Damascus that he was opposed to any large-scale invasion. Instead, he should continue to send small garrisons of men to scope out the territory and attack if necessary. However, Musa had his own plans, and in the year 711 AD, he embarked on a large-scale invasion, headed by one of his generals, a Moor by the name of Tariq ibn Ziyad. Tariq, with his force of 12,000 men, 7,000 of Moorish descent and 5,000 Berber, descended on a region known as Lion's Rock and quickly advanced inland, taking the region of Carthage. As they were about to proceed further in their conquest, they came upon the army of Roderick, which was somewhere over 70,000 men. The army of the Muslim and the Goths came face to face in all-out war near the banks of a river in a region known as Guadeloupe. Though the army of Roderick was much more than that of the Moors were more organized and seasoned for battle. Though the battle raged on for almost a week, the Moors quickly gained the upper hand and came out victorious. The Moors were now in charge of a diverse nation made up of Christians, pagans, and Jews, and whatever religion that was hiding in the shadows. They established the Caliphate of Cordoba and quickly went about in transforming and reinventing the desolate and corrupted Al-Andalus, as it was referred to by name. It was under their rulership that Spain entered its golden age of prosperity, spurred on by art, education, and science. The Moors erected magnificent architectural designs and beautiful palaces. They introduced a math system using Arabic numerals, which proved to be more effective than the old Roman numeral system. But that's not their only accomplishment. The Moors introduced an intellectual and educational system that far rivaled anything Spain had experienced previously. Under the leader Abd al-Rahman II of Cordoba, there was an influx of scholars such as historians, philosophers, and even people of the arts, such as magicians and poets, that flooded the shores of Al-Andalus, seeking to be part of that society. Science also took center stage as the Muslims, with their knowledge of how to cure diseases and the different type of medicines, reformed the healthcare system in Spain. They built numerous hospitals which employed doctors of all backgrounds. Those of Jewish, Christian, and Muslim background worked together to further the cause of medicine. They also set up the school of translators in Spain called the House of Wisdom, which served like-minded people such as intellectuals, scientists, and anyone who desired to indulge themselves in every form of knowledge. The first school of wisdom was located in Baghdad in the year 870 CE, but was destroyed during the Mongol invasion in 1258. The Moors or Muslims, however you wish to describe them, contributed so much to the reformation of Spain that it would take more than this video to actually discuss all the accolades. So why, after such accomplishments, were they expelled from Spain? Once again, this can be attributed to religion. After ruling Spain for almost 800 years, the end of Moorish dominance came to an end around 1492 with the then Christian Spanish monarchs Isabella and Ferdinand. But resentment has been brewing for centuries between the Muslim rulers and the Catholic diocese in Spain. Some believe the Catholics were jealous of all the accomplishments made by the Arab invaders. However, I believe it was much more about control. The Catholics wanted to enjoy all the luxury and privileges they were accustomed to before the Arabs came. But let's backtrack a bit. In the 13th century, a group of Muslim Moors of Middle Eastern ancestry named the Nasrids settled in the province of Granada, which they ruled for over 200 years or so. Granada was essentially a vassal state of Spain. Now, the Catholic monarchs Isabella and Ferdinand were not thrilled to have the Muslims controlling their territory, especially now that they were on their way in conquering the New World. This was more of a political and religious strategy. The ruling and last Muslim king at that time in Granada was Boabdil. He gathered his men together and were poised and ready for battle. The Spanish cavalry, under the leadership of Captain Gonzalo Fernandez de Cordoba, known as the Great Spanish Captain, descended upon Granada. And after a long and difficult battle, Granada fell and the last Moor king surrendered to the Spanish army. Now, they were not driven out immediately after the fall of Granada. Through a set of negotiations, the Muslims were granted religious freedom, but that was not to be for too long. The Archbishop of Granada, a man by the name of Francisco Jimenez de Cisneros, set out to force the Moors who were Muslims to convert to Christianity. The Muslims refused to convert to Christianity and staged a revolt in 1499. Unfortunately, luck was not on their side and they suffered a devastating defeat once again. This time the stakes were higher. Either they choose to convert to Christianity or risk being expelled from Spain altogether. History tells us that many of the Moors unwillingly converted to Christianity. They were known as the Moriscos. Those who choose not to convert left Spain and settled in other regions. Now, unlike other religions, the Moriscos, through converted, maintained their Muslim traditions. They continued to dress in Muslim attire and read and communicated in Arabic using the Arabic alphabet system. They continued to be defiant in their ways, which brought about suspicion from the Catholic community, who believed that these Moriscos were not all genuine to the Catholic faith. As a matter of fact, this proved to be true, as the Moriscos did not assimilate well into Spanish society. They sort of isolated themselves and did not intermarry with the Catholics. This all came to an end in 1556 when the ruling monarch Philip II issued a decree that basically forbade the Muslims from speaking in their own language and even dressing in Muslim attire. All customs and traditions must also cease. The Muslims were furious and in 1569 staged a revolt once again, which lasted about 2 years. They were once again defeated and was forcibly expelled from Granada and settled in other parts of Spain, mostly in the north. But the Muslims, not easily defeated, remained defiant and loyal to their beliefs, traditions, and political affiliations. This must have proven too much for the ruling monarchs and nobilities, and after facing continuous scrutiny and various forms of discrimination by the state, a royal order of mass deportation was finally issued by the royal court. On September 22, 1609, an estimated 300,000 Moriscos was expelled out of Spain. Deportation continued until 1614, when the last of the Moors was finally removed from Spain. After facing expulsion from Spain, many Moors settled in countries such as Tunisia, Morocco, and other North African countries. They eventually assimilated into the cultures of these societies, where their descendants still live today. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Remember, knowledge is a blessing from above. We must nurture it to the fullest.